Hi, friends. Hello today. How are you this morning? Good morning, friends. Play with that a little bit. So, how are you, gang? Good to see you. I hope you are well on this beautiful Thursday. It is sunny and warm. Warm for the middle of November anyway. Um, Pushing 60 degrees. A beautiful day. A little coffee on board. Life is good. Bringing hope that you on this Thursday are having a great day. Hey, Karen. Good morning to you. Donna. Good morning. Glad you're here. Hope you're well. John Wills, everybody. How are you, John? Hope things are good on your end. I appreciate uh, I appreciate y'all being here. Hey, Bonnie. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Having a good day. Hope everybody is doing all right here on this, enjoying a little sun, maybe. All right. Planting daffodils today. Oh, that is beautiful. That is the that's gorgeous. On the corner of my folks' headstone, my dad's headstone, are daffodils, and we picked them because they were that particularly every spring, my folks, as they got older, would sit out on the after having been cooped up for the winter. They'd sit out on the porch in the front, and the daffodils obviously they're the first thing that rise in the spring, and um, they have a my mother has 50 years of gardening there, and just a beautiful display around the place, and so it always it's just this little moment of joy. The moment of daffodils coming up was that they always shared together. So we put daffodils on there, as a way of memorializing, uh, you know, um, my dad and my folks' journey together and all that. So anyway, that's lovely. I'm glad you're planting them. That's the long way of saying that. All right. Good morning, friends. It is the 10th day of November on this Thursday, and welcome. Today is the Marine Corps birthday, and I will spare you the singing of the Marine Corps hymn, um, but it is the but with it for those Marines that you may know, should you cross paths, wish them happy birthday, because as the Marines say, there are no ex-Marines. There is only former Marines. That they once a Marine, always a Marine. So I lift this up just because, just because I can, but also because my friend Chris Serber, who is served a number of years in the Marine Corps, and proudly displays and carries his identity as a Marine, is also a pastor down in southern Florida, and he has a powerful ministry in Haiti. And if you don't know what's going on in Haiti these days, it is truly brutality. And he wrote his organization down there is called Supply and Multiply, but we also have a partner in Haiti as well, Wilbins Magenet, who is our missionary that we support here at First Congregational Church down in Haiti. And Wilbins has two churches now that he's primarily pastoring in Bon Bon, and another town, and it's the western side of the island where really there aren't really many other churches, if any, functioning right now, and that his church continues to grow, and his churches continue to grow and continue to flourish, but the conditions in Haiti are truly horrific. There is no law, there is no supply chain, there are no grocery stores. Everything that is purchased or gotten is either through a black market or through kind of knowing somebody. Um, and Chris wrote this on his ministry's page the other day as an invitation to us, and I want to talk about that this for a second. Just and that and he writes this. He says, Haiti is in crisis. Innocent people are being killed physically. That is the reality. A woman goes to wash her family's clothes, and her and too many to count are massacred. If you escape physically, your mental state is imprisoned to fear and despair. We can tell you that no one is safe or off limits now from the evil that plagues Haiti today. Our ministry family is accounted for and are safe at this moment. Today, we ask that you join us in prayer. Add, supply, and multiply, that's his ministry there, and the nation of Haiti into your prayer chains. We need prayer specifically for the gangs to be contained and not to take over any more areas. We need prayers for the violence to cease. We need prayers for international intervention to aid in ending this violence. We need God to show his great mercy and for hearts and minds to change. Wilbins, our friend there, Wilbins Machine, his house is actually too close to one of the government buildings. So he lives right up the street from the government buildings, and so there've been riots at the government buildings and at the police station. So he's had to actually flee from his house. He ran into the jungle, and they lived in the jungle for a number of days, and to the point that one of his daughters ended up getting scabies as a result of having to live in the jungle, for his welfare. He really continues to flourish there because of the fact that his churches are flourishing, and that the witch doctors, the ganja, the medicine men, whatever you want to call them, the voodoo priests that end up essentially running these gangs, like that the world in Haiti is very intertwined with the spiritual world between what's going on. The cultures of death that take over with these gangs that my friend Chris talked about are very real. That these aren't simply guys that they're doing violence, but they're doing violence on behalf of truly what they would call spiritual entities. Like that the ganja, the medicine men, the voodoo priests are a part are intertwined into that fabric, and so but his churches are flourishing, and so that is actually a sign of the Spirit. And should his churches stop flourishing, there is a sense that he might well be killed. That's the reality that he lives into every day, and this is the reality of Haiti right now. I tell you all that to kind of tell you this, to tell you another story, that and it links to this piece of scripture, which I think is often skipped over, but is actually, I think, at the core of, I talked about it a little bit Sunday, but it is actually at the core of what we're about, of core of the entire Christian message. And this is from the first chapter of the book of Revelation, because it's right out of the gate. This is the vision statement right out of the gate of what's going on in the spiritual world from John's perspective. He says, and then I saw him. And when I saw him, so he's talking about, he has literally this vision of God. and he says, when I saw him, I fell at his feet, though dead. But he laid his right hand on me, saying, fear not, I am the first and the last, and the living one. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore, and I have the keys of death and Hades, or the keys of death and death's domain. You'll hear it sometimes. We in Protestant land and in our church often hear this said as the promise of resurrection into the next life, right? We often hear it as this sense like that, just this anchoring idea that this life doesn't end with our mortal bodies, that we will continue on into a fuller and greater and more abundant life than we could even imagine in this world. Now that's the promise of what we think about, and we think that way because we're Americans. We're highly individualized in this world. But one of the things that it talks about is that talks about, and that we have seen borne out over the 2,000 years-ish since it was written, is also this notion of having the keys to death and to death's domain. What does that mean? It has meant that every time the followers of Christ, every time Christianity, every time Jesus comes up against cultures that are a part of this blood sport that is on display in Haiti, it is conquered. Those cultures are destroyed. That it is the power of Christ. It is the power of Christ. This is not just a teaching thing, okay? There's some metaphysics in this. There is real spiritual power in this. And I know we're kind of going down a rabbit hole, and you can do with it what you want, but this is what changes things. I bought a car once from a guy who was very proud of his Norwegian heritage. He had great big guy, looked like a Viking, had big tattoos and kind of could have walked out of central casting from the show Vikings, actually. Other than the kind of the face ink, he was really proud of it. And he found out I was a minister, and we were chatting, and he said, the only one that ever conquered the Vikings was Jesus. And this is the thing, and this is a real thing. The Vikings had this pretty horrific culture of death, that they practiced human sacrifice. They practiced it pretty hard and pretty regular. There are numerous that you find throughout kind of Europe. You find these bog sacrifices, people kind of going and being laid in bogs. That again and again, there's all these different kind of sacrificial ways. There's an incredible culture of blood sacrifice. Horses, horses, owls, whatever, crows, whatever you want to sacrifice. There's all this, and this, you see this dramatized in some of the shows, but we really don't get our heads around what these blood cultures end up meaning. Because they end up meaning that there is no goodness, that it's as easy to go and slaughter the woman who is washing her family's clothes at the brook as it is to eat a sandwich. These are the things that we start to this is a world truly without goodness. Everywhere Christ encounters these cultures, whether they're in South America with the Aztecs, 80,000 dead on the pyramid in the Aztecs on one day, 80,000 people sacrificed on the Aztec pyramids. These blood cultures that are spread around the world, well, they're still alive in Haiti today, and I bring that up just because there are also blood cultures that continue to be alive within our world. The misallocation of the warrior spirit and warriors, the misallocation of medical treatments. There's again and again. There are these places that these little spirits haven't gone away. These little principalities haven't stopped trying to be what they are in this world. That evil is still evil, but yet they are conquered where Christ comes in and where the culture of Christ comes in. It's not, and when I say culture, that's a, I would like to capitalize that or something, or start it with a K, because I don't really mean just, how we negotiate our day, how we say please and thank you, although those are parts of it. It's incredibly deeper. It is to say, what is the foundation of the values that we think, and does life have value? Does goodness have value? Does joy have value? And that these are not, by the way, as our postmodern friends would tell us, kind of randomly associated things. Well, this culture calls that good, and that culture calls that good, and so those are really good. No, eating people is bad. Like, just if you're curious, if we have to go to that place, no, eating people is bad, and eating people is bad everywhere we go. I'm willing to make that incredible truth claim to you this morning on the interwebs. Like, it is. I mean, it almost sounds ridiculous, but actually when we start from those places, from those incredibly foundational, almost ridiculous places, we start to see the incredible gift of what Christ's love has brought to this world. It's not just this individualized idea of, Christ has overcome death, so one day I'm going to see all those people I love face to face. Which is awesome and true. Or I'm going to overcome death, and so that I don't need to worry about my own death. I should think about it, because thinking about it helps me figure out how I'm going to live today, and what I'm going to do with these days that God has given me, and then hopefully I will use them well and strong and fully, and that I won't leave them. I won't leave them money left on the table for the days that God has given me. And so that thinking about our death helps, but not to fear it, or not to worry about it, or not to rub our hands about it and worry, but to say no, that it is simply an entry into the next life and the next adventure that God has for us. And that's all good and wonderful. But when Jesus is giving those words to John, I have the keys to death and death's domain. It is this radical transformation that comes into the world that has played itself out for 2,000 years, and that is playing itself out today, to the overcoming of cultures of death, of the things that would rob us of the good, the true, and the beautiful in this world, of the things that would destroy and tear apart the things that are truly nourishing and loving and beautiful and growth filled in the world. Those are the things, those ways of being, those principalities, those power over grabs. I mean, why are you, like, if you think about like the idea of a voodoo priest. Why are you a voodoo priest? Why? Because there is power in it, right? Because there's power in it. And we can get all the good greeblies to ourselves. We can get all the fancy pants and the lollipops. We can accumulate to ourselves all the wonderful things. We can exert power even over death, at least we think we can. That even to imagine how people step into the service of those principalities are still, while seemingly horrifying, still attractive at some level. And we can see even ourselves doing it sometimes. Gosh, really, even ourselves will want to get to the front of the line, or get the have the biggest turkey leg, or whatever it is in our days. We're not immune from that either. But the invitation of God, the invitation of Christ, the invitation of the victory over death is not just this personalized idea, but it is this culture and this reality that is playing itself out everywhere on the planet. And I tell you all of that to come back to Chris's invitation to us to pray for Haiti, to pray for the Haitian, to pray for Wilbins, to pray for his ministry, supply and multiply down there, to pray for those that those principalities might find their way back into the darkness and may be pushed back by the light of Christ. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know how it happens. Then, but what I do know is it is the only thing that has ever stopped human pain in this world. It's the only thing that has ever stopped cultures of death and blood from being cultures of death and blood. And it's the thing that is playing out even now, even as I speak, even as we gather here, even as we plant daffodils and join together in our lives on this little 11:11 moment. The goodness and grace of Christ, who is the master over death and death's domain, that cultures of death will not win. And for those of you who've lost people, or who have had your heart broken, or for whom kind of death has gotten a poke in, know that. No, not just suspect, not just, you have 2,000 years of evidence. And even longer than that if we want to trace it back. But you have 2,000 years of evidence of God's love moving and growing and capturing souls and loved ones and rescuing them from the horrors and the brokenness and the pain of the world. It's my hope that you'll spend a little time today praying for our friends in Haiti, and that you'll pray for the world and for the world that you're a part of, for our church, for our community, to understand and to know and to deepen and to lean into the trust that Jesus has the life of death and death's domain. All right, friends, that's my joy. That's my hope for you today. I hope you will know that God's love and God's grace are with you in these days. We have tomorrow. We'll be in the parade. So if you're around Fall River, we'll be representing for the parade, and the next day we'll be. And then Sunday we'll be gathering for worship. I hope you'll join us and be a part of this great journey and this great witness of God's incredible victory over all the different ways that death and the robbing of what is good might come to pass. Pray for our Haitian friends, and we'll pick it up next week with another 11:11. Peace and grace to you, my friends.